What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of The Amateurs with Bryce and Jaren. Real stories, real situations, real talk.
On this podcast, we invite former amateur athletes and sports industry professionals to tell their story and help guide the next generation of student athletes. But don't just take our word for it. After all, we're just a couple of amateurs.
We back.
Back.
Back like Jordan wearing 4-5, right?
Man, there you go.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of The Amateurs. Today, we recorded probably one of our best episodes yet with Jabari Saunders, Nike brand marketing specialist. He's also had some experience with ESPN, Jordan Brand, and even played overseas for a little bit. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? We're here with Jabari. Jabari, we always ask, our guests before, we start, who put the ball in your hands and, where did your love for the game originate?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. First of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. This is an amazing platform for you guys to be able to, bring that energy to, people at the collegiate level. But, to answer your question, who put the ball in my hand, honestly, it was my parents. My mother and my father. Both of them, was blessed to have them always pushing me to do many things. Started off, playing soccer first, but once basketball got in my hands, I couldn't put it down. Like, I just fell in love with it. And, I'm an 80s baby, so I had the opportunity to see MJ's progression. And so that was one that just kind of always stuck with me, like seeing the game developed and evolve and watching the Olympic team and just like I couldn't put the ball down. And that's where that passion and love of the game came from. It's always just been a part of my life. Honestly, it's still today, 36 years later, like it's still a part of my life today because I love this game.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we talk about. I mean, you were born in the 80s. You got to live through that. We were both born in 98. So the last year that you growing up in Chicago, it's like, man, we missed out on that.
Yeah. No, it was a great time, man. Like, I'll never forget seeing the first championship, like going, like I remember even vividly, like going, we were getting whooped by Detroit. We was getting beat up. Like, I got to see that. And then, like, when we finally crossed over and crossed over that bridge, it was like, okay, we got the crown now.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
We finally had the bragging rights for a little, like, for so long it was Boston and LA battling back and forth, and Detroit, they were popping off. And I was like, okay, Chicago, they finally got one.
Yep.
And then who knew that it was going to turn into what it was? Like,
exactly.
I know LeBron was like, yo, we can get a 4, 5, 6, 7, but MJ and them and Scotty, they was like, listen, we got 3. I'm going to take a break and then come back and give you 3 more. I'm like, who does that?
Yeah, that's different. That's different. Man. But no, I did a little research before the episode, and I saw a few of your athletic accolades, and you were nice.
No, appreciate it.
Yeah, 2-time second team All-American, Conference Player of the Year, led the nation in field goal percentage, varsity captain. But what really caught my eye were the 2 bullet points in your LinkedIn about you doing like public speaking, so speaking to the incoming class of freshmen and also the president inductee at the president inductee ceremony. But I want to know, as public speaking or just being vocal, has that always been a part of you, or was that something that you had to sort of step out of your comfort zone to do?
Yeah, man. For me, I'm a people person. Like, I love to just have conversation with people, and because for me, it helps me just learn about different people, learn about their backgrounds a little bit more, and just understand who they are. And that just always helps me just kind of balance out as a person individually. So I love that experience. Now, I'll tell you this, when it came to that president's speech and speaking to the incoming class, like growing up playing basketball, like I grew up in Joliet, we were the number 1 team in the state for so long. Like, we were always in front of the camera. So it just got us just used to it already at high school.
Right.
And then when I finally, when we got to college and undergrad, like, man, they asked me to do that. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, I talked to, 40, 50 people. Nah, it was 1,000. You know, they sent me for the okie doke. There was like 1,500 people and their families in there. So I got up to the podium and I just looking around. I'm like, okay, all right. Like I just felt that energy. Like honestly, what helped me in that moment, honestly, was basketball, because in the game you play in front of so many people, right? Yep. And so for me, I was like, all right, I'm gonna just use this. Like I gotta play a game. Like you gotta perform out there. So let me go ahead and do that here. And so. You know, you learn to calm your nerves. You persevere through that experience and what you're thinking, and then you know, you get it done.
Right.
You get it done.
Yeah. And I can attest to that as well. Like, you know, of course, us athletes have, you know, we were able to, you know, perform on the big stage. So I mean that kind of prepares you, you know, probably for public speaking too, being able to play in front of, you know, a lot of fans and be nervous and then channeling that, you know, energy or whatever, that anxiety. But let's go into, you know, your career a little bit, you know, in college. And I know we talked briefly before, but you know, you had, you know, an injury, right?
Yeah, like, man.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, never forget it, man. I know it play by play. Like we were, this was coming off of my junior year into my senior year, right? And junior year, I was a second team All-American, so I was still geeked up. Like I was ready to go in. Like I was ready to go in and kill. Like I was like, I need Player of the Year. I need everything, all the awards. That's what I was going for. I was like, man, if I can get second team, like I know I can get first team. Like I know I can kill these dudes. And man, went out. We had an exhibition game at UIC, and one of the guys on UIC, literally, it's at the end of the first half. I think I might have had like 8 points in the first half, so it wasn't nothing crazy. But I was just like, all right, cool, we compete, and still they're like, well, we can still win this game. And so came down like 10 seconds left. It came off a free throw. They got the rebound, so they pushed the ball up. I'm backpedaling. Once it in like 3, 2, 1, he pulls up from the elbow, and I plant and pushed off and try to go up and to contest the shot. And you know, I get to contest the shot, and I felt like my ankle brace strap had slipped off my foot. So like I was like, oh, something. Man, I took 3 steps to, you know, get off the court and go back to the locker room halftime, man. As soon as I hit the edge of the court to go back, man, I just collapsed. I didn't know what happened. Like it was just a sharp pain that went through. So I ended up tearing my plantar fascia on the bottom of my foot. So that was a tough injury. Luckily, the team still ended up pulling off the second half and beating them. But it was tough, man. That hurt my heart. Like at that time, I was just like, I didn't know when I'd be back on the court. None of that, but it was tough. And but I was able to, you know, make it through. You know, it's only a setback, and you gotta work through those setbacks, and that's exactly what I did. Truly, with that, it was through, you know, a lot of prayer with the family, and you know, just working hard with the training staff. It's just like, all right, how do we get this thing back? And it took some time, but
yeah. So can you talk a little bit about, you know, overcoming, you know, that adversity, and how was that process?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you go through when any injury, you kind of, you know, second guess yourself. Like I was like, man, was I not in shape? Was I doing too much? Like I had all of these mental, like I wasn't talking to anyone about this, but I was mentally like in my head a lot. And you know, I was going through it then, and like the only people who I had to like really like talk about this truly was my teammates and my roommates at the time. And so we would you know, they knew I'll be in there training, you know, doing everything I could to stay in shape, because the only thing I could do was upper body workouts. So like I'm on like the hand bike, like tiring myself out. I couldn't really walk like on the treadmill for so many odd times later, but really it was all about the mental. And for me, it was just, you know, being able to stay focused, that there was still a goal in mind, and understand. I remember talking with my mother and my father very vividly of just, you got to understand, like, it's a process. Like, yes, there are bumps in the road. This is just that. Like, your leg didn't fall off, you know. You still have that. So it's just about getting yourself back into the rhythm of digging yourself out the hole and taking it day by day. And it's one step at a time for it. And you know, having that opportunity, it was amazing to, you know, kind of overcome that, because it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about patience. it also helped me at an early stage understand a little bit about depression. That was a piece too that I know a lot of athletes, even today, like early on, like I was depressed. I was like, man, I can't play ball. Like, what's going on? This is my last year. I don't even know if they're gonna give me a red shirt, like injury, like any of that stuff. So, you know, it taught me a lot there, just being patient and just, you know, staying with myself, keeping my family around, talking with them, keeping that good love and energy. And I think once the team also, they started to see like, yo, this dude didn't give up. Like this dude is in the training room. He in practice with us. He coaching us. He like, hey, you need to move here instead of moving here. Like I basically turned into, you know, player coach real quick. Like, listen, we still got business to finish. I'm gonna be back like soon. And when I come back, it's on. So that was always like the goal at that point. Like, all right, I can get back at this.
Gotcha. That's dope. The way you know transition, you didn't let it, you know, break it. Me and Jen and I literally just talked before you got on about like giving energy versus like taking, like zapping energy when it comes to a team or like a work team or athletic team. And instead of you know, already being a leader, you could have very well, you know, just been defeated, and that would have, I'm sure, impacted the team. But you know, transitioned into a role where you became even more of a leader, and like you said, a player coach. And I'm sure that impacted the team in the right way.
Yeah, I mean, anyone, like when something bad happens to a person, like even in the workforce, like something like, okay, they cut budget or something like that, like, or whatever, like people get to feel like, dang, we can't do anything. No, we can still figure it out. Like, don't let this one setback. And I remember, you know, just during that time, like that was my role. Like, even though like people, when I went down, like I was glad they still had that energy to go out and win the game. But like, I remember sitting down on the bench, like everybody looking down at like somebody, they score, they're going like a 5-point, 10-point run. They looking down the bench like, I'm like, man, I'm like, they ain't nothing I can do. It's a wrap. Today is a wrap. And so, you know, obviously once we made it through that game, we in practice and, you know, we had upcoming games happening. They were truly like, all right, he's in it with us. He ain't just sitting around at home watching TV. Like I'm still one of the first people at practice. I'm still one of the last ones to leave. And I wasn't even really touching the floor, you know.
You know, throughout college, you know, a lot of us athletes, we thinking like we going pro. That's our whole mindset. We're not really thinking about like what career we want to, you know, pursue after we get our degree. What was your mindset? Because you did go on to play pro for a while, but was that your main focus, or did you kind of balance between, you know, I want to play pro, but I also want to set myself up for this after?
Man, I wanted to go to the league. Like I can't even sugarcoat it. You know what I mean? But man, like I'll say this: like coming out of college, I was like, man, I know like I can play with these guys. Like, I was going to different camps. I was invited to all these different things, so I saw like the level that I needed to be at, and I knew I still needed to work at it. I'm not saying it was easy at all, but I was like, I know I can play with them. Like I was confident enough. And, you know, the opportunity opened up for me to have the opportunity to play overseas and begin my professional career. And I said, you know what, this is that journey I have to start. And it's the next chapter to flip the page on. And so by having that opportunity, it exposed me to so much, like playing in Luxembourg my first year, you know, going up to Belgium to play, you know, my last stop being in Morocco, like I met so many people. The experience of literally you're traveling the world to places that I never thought that I would even, you know, I'm from Joliet, you know, most people don't even leave Joliet, let alone, you know, people in Chicago don't even leave Chicago, let alone leave their city block, you know what I mean? So for me to have the opportunity, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make the most of this. So, you know, I was over there, I was trying to learn the language, I was trying to meet the people, I was trying to literally immerse myself in the culture. And I loved every bit of that experience. And I felt like, had I been, and I was playing, like I was on the court playing, had I been here or, you know, G League, and at the time it was a D League, or, you know, even if I had made an NBA roster, who knows what would happened? You know, I could be sitting the bench or not even dressing games. And so you just find yourself in that. And so, you know, I take the experience of what I had because that opened my eyes up to so much more beyond the game of basketball and where it took me to.
Right. And you know, you talked about overseas. A lot of athletes, student athletes, don't really know too much about that experience. So can you tell them a little bit, like, you know, what was your biggest adjustment, basically, you know, going overseas?
Yeah. My biggest adjustment one is the first day I was leaving to head overseas. I'm packing everything up. I get on the plane, and as I'm getting to O'Hare Airport, like I went through security check, and then when I finally got on the plane, I sat there for a second. I'm like, yo, I don't have anybody to call when I get across this water. Like, can't nobody come pick me up. Can't nobody like bring me food, bring me a plate, none of that. You know what I mean? So that was one of the things that, you know, it took the 6-7 hour flight to get there. It took me that. I'm just like, man, like I'm really putting my life in the hands of one of my teammates. But really what was great, man, is that they loved about it is that I was willing to adjust to their culture and lifestyle, right? Like they knew me as the American coming in. I was the foreign player for them, you know? And so for them, like they had what they wanted to do, but I was just there to like, all right, I'm going to enhance this for you guys. Like, I like the style that you guys are. I still have some things to learn about this Euro game because it's a little different. You can easily think that you catch the ball and go. They call it travel. Like it's the other way. So there's some things there from basketball. But you know, when I talk about the culture side of it and just living there, like it was a pretty I won't say challenging adjustment, but you know, I had my bumps there, like understanding how to drive there and understanding, you know, how to engage with certain people and you know, currency and understanding that, right? And so those are things you just kind of evolve naturally in and adapt to your environment. And that was the best experience for me. I will say it was kind of easier for my time in Luxembourg, but when I got to Morocco, it was a completely different experience. I loved it, but it was, you got upper class and you got lower class. There's no middle class, you know? And so it was, you saw it, like you knew, go to coffee shops, you knew who was going to this coffee shop versus this coffee shop. And it was a great experience, one of the best experiences, I'll tell you that for sure.
Right. And, you know, you also went back, you know, to get your degree. So can you talk a little bit about that and, you know, what made you decide to go back? Because, you know, most athletes, you know, would go overseas and, you know, that's, you know, probably the last thing they're thinking about is actually, you know, making that jump, which is like a bold decision. You know what I'm saying? So what made you, you know, go back and decide to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this. You know, I didn't have any injuries. I didn't have any of that. But what I will say is I was reading this book that really became like my daily ritual to help me plan life. So I was reading this book by Magic Johnson called 32 Ways to Champion Business and a Champion in Business. And I was reading that book and I would literally read a chapter a day and I would just think on, I write notes on it. And kind of after I got like midway through it, I was realizing that I was writing up a business plan, right? And that's what they were telling me to do. And so when I was like, man, they got me writing a business plan. But for whatever reason, it clicked. I was like, let me tweak this a little bit. Let me make this a plan for me. And so a personal plan for myself. And that's what really helped me. Like, it helped me just stay up on reading and just kind of stay current with what's going on. Like, they didn't really speak much English in Morocco, so I wasn't having a natural conversation unless I was on Skype or Facebook or something like that, or I just happened to have my sidekick at the time out and, you know, doing the whole thing. But yeah, they like I was reading that book and that's what really helped me figure out what life after basketball. And so I remember writing down 3 things. I know I wanted to go to grad school. I still wanted to work in sports. And, you know, I wanted to play basketball as long as I could. But, you know, those were really the 3 things that I had. And once I started to like research, when I finally got back after playing in Morocco, I started researching grad school. And even before then, I tried to like get that experience before I jumped into that. But really, it was that book that really helped me realize, hey, there's going to be life after basketball, whether it happens now or if it happens 10 years from now. Like, you need to figure out what that plan is and at least plan for it before, you know, you get later. You can always evolve. You can change. You can rewrite it. Like, you can always do that, right? It's not set in stone or anything like that. So, you know, I was like, let me just get it down on paper, like have it somewhere where I could just always look back to it. And that's what really helped me in understanding, you know, when it was time to flip that switch, like I had that plan mapped out. You know, I was preparing for that. And so, that's what I was doing. Like, and it just happened to just snowball into so many things with grad school and, in my endeavors working. So
that's one of my biggest pieces of advice for athletes, period, is to have a plan. Short-term goal, long-term goal, how are you going to attack it? But after going to grad school, what opportunities opened up because you went to grad school and had that on your resume, that may not have been there if you hadn't had that, experience as a graduate student?
Honestly, even before getting to grad school, like, it was the experience before. I started interning at Northwestern, their athletic department. I was doing some freelance work with a sports agency, just trying to understand the business a little bit. Like, even at the lowest low, I don't care if it was getting coffee. Like, I wanted to put myself in that environment, and I that's kind of helped me understand what I was getting myself into prior to going to grad school. And also, one thing that I had a mentor, and we talked, about, okay, he was a former athlete, went to go get his degree, post degree, and so that helped me understand, like, what this transition was going to be like for me, because I didn't really have too many people that I knew of in front of me who had done this, or like there weren't many athletes like, oh, I'm done playing basketball, like I'm going to this. It was like, oh, they're going into whatever type of business or most coaching, something doing it. Now I'm like, I just want to get the business side of it. So behind the scenes work, and mainly where I focused into was the marketing side. And so that's what helped me, develop my skill set, even during grad school. And where grad school helped me do was build relationships. That's very key and important, especially in this industry, in many industries, honestly. The relationship building, and then also just fine tuning and how to problem solve. That's really a lot of the work that we're doing. Is there's a problem out there, how you going to solve it? All right, let's make a plan to solve it, right? Let's put a strategy behind it. And so that's where a lot of that, learning when it came to grad school, that's where it helped me. And so I was appreciative of, I had a few really good professors, and that really taught the course and really helped me understand it. And just small little nuggets helped me even enhance my skill set from them. And by buying into that and knowing that, hey, I got to go, I want to graduate, I want to actually do well in this industry, like that's exactly what helped me. And it's still those key learnings that I learned then, I'm still applying those same learnings now today.
Love it. Yeah. So kind of like tying those last two questions that we asked together, I have a friend right now that's preparing to go and play overseas. He'll be leaving any day now.
Yep.
And we had a few conversations recently about him, trying to basically make his plan for the future. He knows that he can't play forever. But up to now, he doesn't have any, work experiences outside of playing basketball. So I guess if you could go back, or if you have any advice for players that are about to go and play pro on, like, I guess, leveraging the relationships that they build, or either, I don't know. I didn't know have an answer for him, but like, what advice do you have for him?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to be savvy because you're putting yourself in an entirely different environment, especially going overseas. But I try to use that to my advantage. At the end of the day, sports is sports, whether being played in the United States or played in Europe or Africa or China or wherever. So how I looked at it, I said, listen, I want to know who owns the company. I want to know who runs operations. I want to know who does marketing. And I just want to make sure that I know them to pay attention to what they're doing. And that's what kind of started me in as I was playing. And so, like, I didn't look at it as just having an opportunity to just dribble the ball, like, because you're a student athlete in college. You jump from there to being a professional. So you need to understand the business of the game, the business outside the game, on court and off court. And so that's what I was starting to do to get my mind there, because you got to deal with a contract. You got to deal with an agent. You didn't have to do that when you were in undergrad. You know, like, you were dealing with your coaches and your the school advisor at best. You know what I mean? Your tutor or whatever it was. But once you jump over to that professional side, like, those are the things that you learn. Like, you got an agent. Okay, he's gonna get 7, 8, 9, 10% of your pay. You need to make sure you're on top of that. What that means for you. Are they paying certain taxes? Are they paying certain fees? Like, you become a business, so you need to understand your mind. And I've seen so many people get burned in that sense. So that's one value I would say, regardless of what sport, it could be baseball, football, and you're playing overseas, like understand the business side to it a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, really, it was about building those relationships and understanding what those people did, because they are an organization. There's a FIBA representative in each one of those countries you're playing in. Knowing who that person is, and maybe even just reaching out. What's the worst they can say? No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
Cool. Next, like, let me go ask the next person, right?
Yeah,
that's a great point.
Yep. No is internationally known. No, like it's no. Like, cool, great. Like, tell me when it's a yes, a C, a we. Like, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want to hear, and so that's what I kept pushing for. And as I started to learn, I understand, I built relationships, I built connections to different coaches that I even still talk to every now and again. We still stay in touch on LinkedIn. They're still checking in with me. It's like, oh, I see you're doing great. I hope you're doing great. Yeah, we're still coaching. Our team's doing well. Like, I love hearing that, because how I look at it, that's another sports entity. That's another relationship that I can always have the opportunity to call, pick up the phone and know that they'll be willing to listen and understand what it is that I'm asking for, if there's anything I want to ask for.
Definitely. And I think that speaks to your character. Like, you probably haven't seen them in years, and they still, checking up on you, making sure you're straight. Yep. So yeah, I mean, for the listeners out there, when you build relationships, be the best you, operate yourself with, or display yourself, the highest level of integrity, because those relationships, as you see, mean something. They really do. So
yes. I mean, that was my last year playing, was 2014. Like, I still have relationships where I know I can pick up the phone and call guys that, hey, I'm in Luxembourg. Like, they were like, cool, let's go. Like, you need somewhere to stay. Like, they'll lay the red carpet out for me,
Right.
Same thing in Morocco. Like, if I ever went there, like, I can always shoot a text or always pick up the phone and call them and like, hey, I'm here. And they will, willing to accept me in open arms.
Definitely. Right. And, part of our, mission with this podcast is to, introduce career opportunities within, sports to our listeners. And, your resume is filled, with different experiences within the sports industry. So, if we could go through that, for a little bit real quickly, let's start with, ESPN. What were your responsibilities as a, promotions coordinator?
Yeah, like, let me tell you this. That was when things just started to snowball. Because honestly, I was in the middle of an internship. I wasn't no more than 2-3 weeks in. I could have called from ESPN like, hey, we have an opportunity for you. I was just like, and mind you, like, when I was building out my plan, like when I was in Morocco, I said, okay, these are the companies I wanted to work for. I said, I wanted to work for Nike. I wanted to work for ESPN. I wanted to work for Gatorade. I was like, that's sports to me. That's what I love. Like, cool, that's where I want to be at. And when I tell you, like, when they picked the call, I was like, yo, I'm geeks. At the same time, I'm like, all right, how am I supposed to finesse this to get to ESPN when I'm still in the middle of this internship?
Right.
So I ended up just talking, to who I was reporting to, the director. Really good dude. Like, he told me straight up, he was like, one, it takes a lot of courage for you to even come up and have this conversation. He was like, I respect you for that. He was like, and then two, you'd be a fool to not take this position. So I was like, cool. Like, but he's just like, just always, like, you always have an open door. Like, I appreciate people who are willing to come in and be authentic with you. You came in to work every day. You were always hustling, grinding. You came in with great ideas there. She was like, absolutely. Like, this is a great opportunity. Like, go for it, for sure. So I started off there, and what that really exposed me to was just really the basics of marketing. Like, and I was able to stay in Chicago. Like, I was working out of ESPN radio, which is the same building as the ABC7 building, right across the street from Chicago Theater. So I got to work, with so much, whether it's baseball, it was Bull Sox, Blackhawks, Cubs, like Bears, like I got to see it all as related to sports, and especially in a city like Chicago, like you have every one of those, like you got everything from the Bears, you got the Bulls, and at that time when I was there, it was Derek, Joakim, Luol Deng, like it was the glory days.
Glory days.
I mean? Like we was back in my eyes. So I got to experience a lot of behind the scenes space. Like we were setting up different radio shows. I got to have my first experience with Stephen A. And seeing his growth, like, because the city was so on fire from a basketball land. And honestly, and then on top of that, you still had the Cubs that were doing their thing in the city, like they were balling. So it was just a lot of energy just around sports that we used to love. And so what I appreciated that was it helped me understand how different sponsors, beer sponsors, liquor sponsors, how they play a role into the marketing aspect, and how do we help build collectively both of our brands. And understanding that, putting in the grind work, like literally I'm lifting chairs, I'm cleaning tables, like we're setting up, we're passing out stuff to get people to sign up for. So it was very much a promotions aspect to it, to understand what it is that I was truly going to be doing and get myself into. And it was one of the best experiences, man. Like I tell you this, like I got to meet Dennis Rodman.
That's exactly.
We got to meet the Worm, like Charles Barkley, like he was there. I met him several times. Like I said, Stephen A. But it was just like, okay, like I had to humble myself with like, okay, you aren't an athlete anymore. Like you're post athlete. So you are one of them. You see yourself as one of them, but also at the same time, like you're working. But like I loved every bit about it. I think that kind of helped me even settle and calm my nerves a lot, because how I used to look at people, like when people had big names and I step on the court, I was like, you tie your shoes up the same way I do.
Yep. Absolutely.
But then I was like, okay, like I'm still working. They're working too. Like they aren't on the court. So let's be about business. And so that really kept me in that spirit and not geek out over, seeing Charles Barkley or anybody like that, or, experiencing that. And so I was like, okay, I'm working. He's working. Like, let's work. And so that's exactly what it was. Like Mike Wilbur, he was great, man. Like being able to, he's a Chicago guy, Northwestern guy on top of that. Like we just had so much to click on. And like, this is work. We ain't even talking about sports, like really, but, or my career or anything. Like we were just two men just talking. And so I loved every bit about that role. It just helped me expose me to so many great people that is still a part of this journey that I'm on even today.
Yeah, I just want to, expound on that a little bit more too. I mean, for all the athletes out there, as you can see, you might not go pro, but you can definitely still enjoy being around sports. And I feel like, that's so important, because, most guys fall, into that, I don't know what I should do. I don't know what I'm good at or what I can do. But like, I mean, you've been playing sports your whole life, so why not still be around it and still be able to meet more people? Like you said, you met, some amazing, guys and athletes. So just think about that as well.
Absolutely.
For sure. And after you spent some time at ESPN, you transitioned into a few different roles at Jordan Brand. But how did that opportunity come about?
Yeah, that one was, I'll tell you that was a blessing in disguise, honestly. So I was still over at ESPN, and it was a little light for whatever reason. I was like, I'm gonna just go over to Nike and go get a little part-time little job over there. I was like, I'll go work at Nike, get to understand what that is, and on top of it, I'm gonna get some free shoes. You know what I mean? Like that's what I was like. Give me a little discount, But so I go in for the interview, and at the end I'm like, yeah, I know I'm gonna get it. And then as I was walking out the door, I was like, actually, I want to ask you a question. Like, I see you have a marketing background. I'm like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, hey, we're actually interested in a marketing, a marketing coordinator, essentially, to run out of retail. Would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, that's my space. And so how it kind of started off was like, okay, you can kind of do this part-time. I just need some support here. But I have a couple of events that's happening and just kind of need some support staff here to kind of help some of the different intricacies in that. And so honestly, I came over and it just started to evolve. And that person actually had an opportunity to go out to Portland, who I was reporting to at the time, and they got to go out and go get some experience there. And so things just started to snowball there again. Like it was kind of the same thing that was happening from Northwestern and the transition from there to ESPN. And all of a sudden I turned around and look, and like it was starting like gravity and was pulling me more like, hey, we need you here for this. And like I was just busting my butt to just like make sure that like y'all knew me We knew who I was. I'm great at this. Like, hopefully it could evolve to that, more and more. And that's exactly what happened. And so they were just like, hey, we need you here full time now. Like, it's time to cross that bridge. Like, we need to get you over here. And it was difficult, man, like having that conversation. Like, I remember talking to my mentor, was like, hey, I'm about to leave. I'm thinking about leaving ESPN. He was like, why?
Right.
Like, what you mean? Like, you got the best of everything in there. And I was like, well, I got the opportunity to go work at Nike. And he was just like, all right, that would be a reason.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, okay. And so I remember talking about it, and the opportunity went, and so I was there in the marketing coordinator kind of position role for about a year and a half, and that helped expose me to how Nike worked at the time. Right, I got to experience so many different categories. They had basketball, you have Jordan Brand, you had running, you had soccer, like you had all of these different things, and I got to be a part of each one of them. And that helped me understand kind of how the business was set up internally at this space. So it was one of those where I loved every bit of it. Got to experience so much, and what happened was I was actually in a process of thinking, what is it that I want to do post, and or what is it I want to do next? I was like, okay, like this is great, but I want more. And World Basketball Festival came up in Chicago, and so I was like, all right, this is going to be a really dope experience. Like, let me see what this is going to be about, and then after we can adjust after and figure out what the plan is next. And man, World Basketball Festival, I was still playing at the time, so I was playing in Pro-Am and playing, and working as well. So It was like the best of both worlds, but I also had a crossroads there of like, hey, you got to choose. Like, are you at work or are you going to play? So I remember I had to put the shoes down and actually drive this work I was doing, and actually was one of the best decisions I had made at the time, because I'll never forget, I got invited to watch the USA men's team play at the United Center. They had an exhibition game. And we ended up, and I believe this was the game right before Paul George tore his knee after he ran into the base of the stanchion of the rim. And so I remember that, and I was invited to the game. So I'm in an Uber with one of the senior directors at the time. He was like, hey, what are your plans for the future? And I was like, obviously I want to still work in marketing. I've been doing this for a while. I spent some time in Northwestern Bowl, kind of giving them a quick elevator pitch of my resume and who I am. Literally, It's an Uber ride. So it wouldn't know from downtown to United Center, nothing but like a 10, 15-minute Uber ride. So that's all I had with him. And right before he was like, listen, here's my car. Like, give me a call in a couple weeks. I might have something open. And he had worked for Jordan Brand. And because I was working on some of the things during World Basketball Festival. And sure enough, I waited about a week and a half. And I was like, man, I got this car that keeps staring at me. I'm staring at it. Like, what am I going to do? And I hit him and sent him an email. He hit me back and was like, what took you so long?
Yeah.
And it was like, man, like, I'm glad you reached out. And so he was like, listen, I got an opportunity. It'd be great for you, I think, especially being a Chicago guy. You worked hard during World Basketball Festival. Like, let's figure out a way to get you out here. And so I was very much open for that. And I was excited, and it just worked out. And they hired me. I went out, I flew out to Portland, I interviewed. They were like, hey, you should probably go, like, as I'm literally walking out of the interview, they're like, hey, you should probably take the time to just, go around, get comfortable with Portland. Like, I don't even know if I got the job yet, but okay, right? So I'm riding around in a rental car. I'll never forget, I had this rental car. It was a Mustang convertible. And so I was just riding around, but I couldn't let the top back because it was raining. But it was cool, man. Like, that was definitely the first experience into working with Jordan Brand, and being from the city, ain't no better feeling, man. Ain't no better feel like MJ, like Jordan.
Exactly.
Man, where do I sign? Like, I'm there. That was it.
Yeah, man. And that's dope, man. I'm excited, like like I got the opportunity right now.
Hey man, you do got the opportunity. Like we back.
Back.
Back like Jordan wearing 4-5, right?
Man, I feel you. So for those, my microphone just went out for those that are listening. But like you said, we back. So now that you're with Nike, you've been with Nike for a while. You worked some events around All-Star Weekend. You've done some sneaker releases. You've done an event with Fat Tiger Workshop, which has been one of our favorite brands since high school. So that's super
absolutely.
That's super dope for us. But can you speak a bit about your role with Nike as a brand marketing manager?
Yeah. So again, I was in Portland on Jordan Brand and really had the opportunity to come back to Chicago to be the brand manager for Nike basketball here in Chicago. So that position one, I mean, you tell me I get to do basketball in Chicago, like again, one of them where do I sign type of moments. Like that's the crib, like that's home. And just having so many relationships and just so many vivid memories about playing the game, and it was a no-brainer for me. And especially my daughter was back here, so it was like, okay, I definitely need to get back to be around her. She was growing super fast. At the time she was like 2 going on 22, like just development. So it was really about that. It was more family focused for me. I was like, okay, I just need to get back. But the role really was to really help evolve basketball and understand the needs of the community and help kind of problem solve that. And the basketball community is near and dear to my heart for sure, because I know what the game did for me. I know what the experiences that Nike was able to bring to the city did for me. So I wanted to make sure that it happened for so many other kids to have those memories of playing in these big games and, playing these big tournaments. And sometimes I wouldn't even be playing, like just me spectating it and being in that environment and seeing like, yo, he's next up in the city. Oh, there go Will Bynum. Like, oh, I saw what he did. You know what I mean? Like the same thing that like the next generation have for like Derek and so many other people and Jabari and Jalil, like, and Cappy Pondexter, like there was so many people. Like I wanted to help create that, and so when I had that opportunity to do that, that's exactly what it was. And for me, it like again, basketball means so much more. It's more than just playing the game. It's a tool. It's something to help build your life character. There's loyalty that's a part of that you learn. And really, I think that there's brotherhood and sisterhood that also creates a bond there that the game of basketball brings. Like once you're a part of Chicago's basketball community, you're forever a part of the Chicago basketball family.
Forever.
You know what I mean? Like, the stories, the people, like, the AAU teams, the EYBL team, like, all of that. So that's like how it was for me. And I was like, hands down, yeah, I'm coming back. And so that's exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Definitely.
And then like leaving your own mark, you know what I'm saying, too, on the city. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What do you think your favorite project was, so far? Well, that you've worked on.
Oh man, we worked on so many. I mean, Jordan Brand, we worked on so many. I was a part of the team that helped open up the Jordan store on 32 South State Street. So having that in the city of Chicago, that meant so much in my era during Jordan. I worked on so many different NBA All-Stars. That was huge. And even before I kind of get to the All-Star, I'll say one of the biggest ones that early on in my career when I came back to Chicago was we created a space for safe basketball to be played over on the west side of Chicago near Whitney Young High School. And it was called the Church. And what better place to play the game and to be comfortable and diligent, religious, and say, we created an environment for kids to come through, work out like the best of the best trainers, got their strength and conditioning game up during the summer, like, and then on top of it, we had the best of the best trainers to, come in and teach them the game of basketball at the time. And when I was coming up, like the best that we had was Hoops to Gym. And it was like, the only people who I knew who was going in there was MJ, Tim Grover, Bobby Simmons, Quentin Richardson, Antoine Walker, like that. Those were the guys, you know what I mean? And, Sean Marion, like those were the guys who were going in there. So I was just like, man, that'd be dope. Like we didn't have that necessarily at the time for everyone who's playing now. So we ended up creating that. So we had, over, I'm like 2, 3, 4,000 kids come across, in through the city. And we had that over the month of August for them to come in and train and just get better.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great experience. That was one of my favorite ones. And then honestly, just recently before COVID hit, luckily we were able to kind of get through that. But really, I'm big on community. Like, I want to make sure the community is great. I want to make sure they have, basketball and other opportunities to introduce kids to and help them understand the different facets of the game and just an experience of just a team sport. And so we were able to do something over on the West Side in partnership with Boys and Girls Club, MLK Boys and Girls Club. And so we recreated a space for them. We helped them remodel the space and really just give them a brand new gym and multi-purpose room so they could learn and play the game. They were at a loss for so many things. And like once we really got over there into the space, like we learned so much. Like Mark Aguirre, like he was a Detroit Pistons, Chicago Bulls. Like he's a Chicago great. He's an NBA legend from the West Side, and he went to that club. Joey Crawford, Danny Crawford, like him being an NBA rep, he's from the West Side of Chicago. Like he went to that club.
I didn't know that.
Isaiah Thomas, you know what I mean? Like West Side guys. And so having them over there and just seeing the heritage of the game and like that experience, like it just opened my eyes and so many more. And so we're like, okay, this is right. Like this is what's right for the community during the All-Star weekend. And so I was able to kind of help lead that project there. And, it just meant so much more than just rolling out a ball or painting the walls. Like it was really giving back into the community. And that's what made it special for them all. And that's what was, I love seeing and experiencing that. And it wasn't just for show. Like it wasn't just to like put like, no, this was like heartfelt, like
actually giving back.
My emotions were in this. Like I wanted to see everything that these kids were hoping for. Like I'll tell you this, like staying up late, up early, creating plans, working through all the problems, working through all of that, and then to really come in and see the smiles on these kids' faces. And then on top of that, like was able to bring to the West Side, like literally this is right in the backyard of the United Center. So they've been looking at this building where not many people, I barely even able to pay tickets to get into the United Center on some games, no matter if the Bulls are good or not, and,
exactly.
And for these kids to literally always see this monumental building that has so much history and not be able to get in, I was like, okay, let's go a little bit further. And so we were able to bring in AD, like he's a Chicago kid. Like they got to meet him, they got to meet LeBron, they got to meet Virgil, like they got to meet Pascal Siakam. Like these are NBA superstars that we were able to bring there, and so these kids got to meet up close and personal. Like these kids' eyes lit up so wide. Like that's what I was like. That's what I'm like. That's the payoff that I wanted right there. Like that feeling that you guys had and seeing that at your guys' age. That's the same feeling I remember seeing when I watched MJ play. That's the same feeling I watched. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted them to feel that, and that's exactly what happened. And, that meant so much more to me than anything. And the other side to it was I didn't want to ever like just come and do it this one time and then go away. Like I always wanted to come back. So for that experience, we planned on obviously going back, which we will. Which is obviously in today's right now where we are in this pandemic of 2020. It's a different time. But that's the thing that I love about this is that we're always going to go back and make sure that we're doing what's right for the community.
Right.
It's needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you've obviously had some great opportunities for some big name companies. Whether it be your work ethic or relationships that you built, what has contributed most to your success?
Honestly, it's just being me. I love experiencing new things. I love talking with new people. Like that's what contributes to the journey and just constantly like learning new things. And the more I sit and talk with, some of the old heads, some of the guys that's coming up, like that's what helps me. And honestly, when I'm at my best is usually when I'm talking to the younger kids. They know more than where we think that, they know a lot more. And especially in this like new transition, this new revolution into like the tech phase and where we are and where it's heading, they're so ingrained into it. Like it's one thing being on a webcam call, and I remember people having Nextel chirps and instant messenger and then like they're so far advanced, like they're coding, like they're building the programs that we're using like at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, right?
Exactly.
It's like, so they're the ones that keep me going, like, man, I can learn so much from them. I'm like, okay, they're problem solving, they want to play this game, they want to do this game, like here are the things that they're saying, I wish this game did that. And I'm like, let me dig a little bit more into like the I wish, like, because it's going to happen.
Yeah, it is.
So, it's like problem solving those things that I'm listening to a lot of them. And that's what's really informing me for the future.
Yep. And then, I mean, you mentioned before, that you're starting a podcast, with the mission to help athletes. What will that entail? And, what are some of your goals, with the podcast?
Yeah. One of the things that I've been able to do for some time has really been about helping use my journey to, share a bit of insight into what the obstacles you may have, how to work through them. And so my podcast, it's called The Second Half. So I'm excited about that. And it's really about talking to people about the second half and what that transition is after being a collegiate athlete or professional athlete, and what that transition is like, and how do you work through those, and like what truly helped you get to that point, and like understanding that, because there's so many different things that people should understand. Like there's a mental side to all of this,
for sure.
Right.
There's the evolution of the game and sports. Like there's mental therapy that you do, like to help get you through these moments. It's utilizing the same learnings that you had of playing on court, the same dedication that you had of being in the weight room at 5 a.m., every day with your team. Like that's the kind of dedication that you can understand. Like these are the skill sets that I bring to the table. And when people kind of unlock that and understand that, like it opens their eyes to so much more. But it takes a little bit of encouraging and understanding of, hey, this can do. And it's not, for me, the second half isn't just about my story. I've come across so many other athletes who've gone on the same journey now that I've been in this industry, but they didn't have anyone to kind of learn from. So I'm like, well, let me bring this collective together. Definitely. And it's not to say that it's like an exclusive group or anything like that, because it's not. Like anyone can do this, but I want them to hear other people's stories. I want people to understand, like, you too can get through this. You too can be me. You can be better than me. Like, exactly. Let me give you this playbook of how I got to here, and you take it from here and you go on beyond that, because I'm gonna give you the layup. Now you go out and work on the rest of your game and get layups and jump shots and threes and pull up Steph Curry threes. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like I want to help you evolve and help grow. Whether it's people's career in business or if it's them being an entrepreneur, because what I've learned about this pandemic, and also, is you have time to focus on family, you have time to focus on yourself. And during this time, you truly are becoming more of an entrepreneur more than you think. Mm-hmm. Like,
absolutely.
You have ideas, put it on paper first. Yep. You put it on, now you started the first page of your plan. That's the title page. And so when you kind of understand that and say, okay, I can do that. Like, okay, I need a logo. Man, it doesn't take much to get a logo. You can go, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can go online, Google something. You can hit somebody on Instagram, like, yo, this is dope. Can you make this for me?
Literally. Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
That's how it goes, And sometimes you can even use some of the relationships that you've had. Like, I actually hit up one of my guys that I used to work with. I'm just like, listen, I got something. I sketched it out on paper. Like, what do you think it is? He was like, let me finesse this for you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, cool, that's what you do. And he came back with something dope. Like, I'm just like, all right, it doesn't take much. And that's one thing that people have to, I will say this. If you don't ask, you will never get an answer.
True.
And don't be upset at the fact that someone says no. Because guess what? There are so many other people out there that do the same thing.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
we know that it's going to impact, a lot of student athletes, of course. And if there's anything that we can do, man, just let us know, man.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I would love to have you guys on, when that time comes. And I think that because you have so much value yourselves, like your transition now, you guys are talking about it. Like you guys are giving back and the uplift that you want to make sure that student athletes have and where you guys are going. So that's dope. Like again, like I said in the beginning, this platform here is incredible. I think the voice that you guys have is going to be, it's going to keep growing and people going to start to dive in. They're going to be like, okay, we need to know exactly. We need to listen to them more because they on to something. Because it's true. That's what it is.
Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. Man, our last question is always, especially to the sports industry professionals, is there a quote or a mantra that you go to and sort of live by that you want to share with the listeners?
Yes. It's a quote by Frederick Douglass. I've always lived by this. Without struggle, there is no progress. And
I like that.
For me, listen, there are some things you have to persevere through. I've had it with injuries. I've had it with so many different setbacks, not getting this job. How do you still position yourself and not getting this job and still have that energy to continue to push on? Not making it to the league, not making it on this team. Like, how do you still push through? Do you give up and stop playing basketball and take your shoes off and take your basketball home? And that's really what that has stuck with me for so long. And that's just kind of how I live. Like, I know I'm gonna run through a wall. I know I'm gonna run into a wall. I'm gonna climb it. I'm gonna get over it. I'm gonna punch it through. I'm gonna kick it down. I gotta figure something out. And the other thing that I'll say about that is, don't be afraid to ask for somebody to help push that wall over with you. Oftentimes we kind of, I'll say this, athletes were very type A, right? We want to do it ourselves. Like, no, I can do this. And not all the time do we necessarily want to grab a teammate to do it. But once you kind of get over that part of like, no, I can do this. Like, just like I'll pass the ball to my two guard, like, I know I can still get it back, and he can take the shot, and I can go get a rebound and get an easy, or get whatever that is. Like, we can work in tandem together, or you can get a group of a collective of people. And a lot of times we talk about our circle. Like, don't be afraid to reach into your circle, and ask for help, and ask for support, and that's truly where I live, and that's what that quote truly means to me.
I love that.
Hey, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna definitely have to steal that one, man.
Do it, man. It's yours. You got it. I didn't come up with it. Like, that was Frederick Douglass. So I'm just passing on the good word, the good news.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you coming on. This is a great episode. I'm looking forward to watching this one back.
Same here, man.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks again, for joining, man, and dropping some gems, man. We appreciate it.
All right, fella. Anytime you guys need anything, you need to just talk it out, talk it through, whatever. Like, y'all got my number. Hit me.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. See you.
All
right. That's another one in the books. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and leave a comment or review. You can find us all on our socials. All of our handles will be listed in the description below. And we'll catch you guys next time.